Hello, everybody. So today is day 8, I think, of going live and reading my Bible. It's a little late, but I think I'm going to try a few things different. So I'm going to turn the lights off this time and have my flash on. Basically what happened in the last 5 chapters was that Solomon died, and then there were a bunch of other kings, and north and south of Israel split up, and there were different kings, and only a few of them were good and a lot of them were bad. Okay, I'm gonna start. In the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of all Israel in Tirzah, and he reigned 24 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the ways of Jeroboam and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, son of Hanani, concerning Baasha. I lifted you up from the dust and appointed you ruler over my people Israel. But you followed the ways of Jeroboam and caused my people Israel to sin and to arouse my anger by their sins. So I am about to wipe out Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Dogs will eat those belonging to Baasha who die in the city. And birds will feed on those who die in the country. As for the other events of Baasha's reign, what he did and his achievements, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Baasha rested with his ancestors and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah his son succeeded him as king. Moreover, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani, to Baasha and his house, because of all the evil he had done in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger by the things he did, becoming like the house of Jeroboam, and also because he destroyed it. Elah, king of Israel. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah, son of Baasha, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Tirzah 2 years. Zimri, one of his officials who had command of half his chariots, plotted against him. Elah was in Tirzah at the time, getting drunk in the home of Arza, the palace administrator at Tirzah. Zimri came in, struck him down, and killed him. In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, then he succeeded him as king. As soon as he began to reign and was seated on the throne, he killed off Baasha's whole family. He did not spare a single male, whether relative or friend. So Zimri destroyed the whole family of Baasha, and according with the word of the Lord spoken against Baasha through the prophet Jehu, because of all sins Baasha and his son Elah had committed and caused Israel to commit, so that they aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by their worthless idols. Not who says Sigma anymore. As for the other events of Allah's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Zimri, king of Israel. In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri reigned in Tirzah 7 days. The army was encamped near Gibbethon, a Philistine town. When the Israelites in the camp heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and murdered him, they proclaimed Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel that very day there in the camp. Then Omri, all the Israelites with him, withdrew from Gibbethon and laid siege to Tirzah. When Zimri saw that the city was taken, he went into the citadel of the royal palace and set the palace on fire around him. So he died. Because of the sins he had committed, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord and following the ways of Jeroboam and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. As for the other events of Zimri's reign and the rebellion he carried out, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Omri, the king of Israel. When the people of Israel were split into 2 factions, half supported Tibni, son of Ginath, for the king, and the other half supported Omri. But Omri's followers proved stronger than those of Tibni, son of Ginath. So Tibni died, and Omri became king. In the 31st year of Asa, king of Judah, Omri became king of Israel, and he reigned 12 years, 6 of them in Tirzah. He bought the hill of Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver, and built a city on the hill, calling it Samaria after Shemer, the name of the former owner of the hill. But Omri did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and said more than all those before him. Wow. He followed completely the ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit, so that they aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by their worthless idols. As for the other events of Omri's reign, what he did and the things he achieved, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Omri rested with his ancestors and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab, his son, succeeded him as king. Ahab becomes king of Israel. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Samaria over Israel 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. Wow, these people are not good people. A strong, weak king. King Omri gets a grand total of 8 verses in 1 Kings, even though secular historians regard him as one of Israel's most powerful kings. After his firm rule, Israel was called Omri land, as Assyrian records. That sounds stupid. He built the capital city of Samaria in a location that guarded all routes north and south. Yet he also started the religious heresies that led to his nation's extinction. Politically shrewd, he married off his son to a neighboring king's daughter, Jezebel. The books of 1st and 2nd Kings, however, are concerned with the ruler's spiritual health, and Omri scored very poorly. Pineapple juice. Interesting name. I am reading the Bible. That's what I'm doing. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. Ahab also made an Asherah pole and did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than did all the kings of Israel before him. In Ahab's time, Hiel of Bethel rebuilt Jericho. He laid its foundations at the cost of his firstborn son Abiram, and he set up its gates at the cost of his youngest son Segub, in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken by Joshua son of Nun. It is the Bible. Chapter 17. Elisha announces a great drought. Now Elisha the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word." Elisha fed by ravens. Then the word of the Lord came to Elisha. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan, and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. Hello. A curse from Joshua. Joshua 6:26 records the solemn pronouncement of what would happen to anyone who attempted to rebuild Jericho. The curse had tragic consequences for Hiel. I cannot read right now. Oh my gosh. I think it's 1 Kings, actually. But Elisha and the widow at Zarephath. Some time later, the brook dried up because there was no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him. Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, the widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and said, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" As she was going to get it, he called, "And bring me, please, a piece of bread." "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she replied, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I'm gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son." "That we may eat it and die." Oh. Elisha said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. Then make something for yourself and for your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of the flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." She went away and did as Elisha had told her. So there was food every day for Elisha and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elisha. Some time later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. He grew worse and finally stopped breathing. She said to Elisha, "What do you have against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son? Give me your son," Elisha replied. He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. Then he cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, have you brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with by causing her son to die?" Then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him." The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elisha picked up the child and carried him down from the room into the house. He gave him to his mother and said, "Look, your son is alive." Then the woman said to Elisha, "Now I know that you are a man of God and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth." Should I read this? The prophets God turns to a new breed of heroes. Yes, I should read this. Although the nation of Israel flourishes during its golden age under Solomon, in the end the king's weaknesses seriously erode the kingdom. His lavish public projects lay a heavy tax burden on its citizens and force them to conscript some of them as virtual slaves. His moral failures undermine the spiritual unity of the nation, and the brief, shining vision of a covenant nation gradually fades away. After Solomon's death, Israel splits into 2 kingdoms and begins to slide toward ruin. Reading Old Testament history of the period after this split can prove especially confusing. The 2 nations will have 39 rulers between them and a couple dozen prophets besides. To avoid getting hopelessly lost, keep these basic facts in mind. Israel is the breakaway northern kingdom of the 10 tribes. Its capital city is Samaria. Every single one of Israel's rulers will prove to be unfaithful to God. Wow. Judah is the southern kingdom of the 2 tribes, with Jerusalem as its capital. Some of Judah's rulers, descendants of David, will remain faithful to God and his covenant. So Israel's not good anymore. Okay, good to know. For a summary description of each of these kings, see a lineup of rulers, page 1532 through 1540. Although the Bible discusses all 39 rulers by name, their stories speed up into a forgettable blur after Solomon's reign. God turns ahead to a new breed of heroes, the prophets. Desperate fugitive. Elisha, the wildest and wooliest prophet of all, illustrates better than anyone else the decisive change. Wherever King Solomon wore jewelry and fine clothes and lived in a gilded place, Elisha wears a diaper-like covering black camel's hair, sleeps in the wilderness, and has to beg or pray for handouts. He comes on the scene when Israel, the northern kingdom, is thriving politically but floundering spiritually. Chapter 17 shows Elijah during this fugitive days, learning utmost faith in God. First, he is fed by ravens. Then, when his water supply dries up, God orders Elisha to an unlikely place, the home of a poverty-stricken widow. The widow, not even an Israelite, lives in evil Queen Jezebel's home territory, a dangerous place for a hunted prophet. Yet the widow shows enough faith in the prophet and his God to offer her last meager resources. Jesus later refers to this story as an example of God reaching out to Gentiles. See Luke 4:25 through 26. A moody prophet, subject to bouts of depression and self-doubt, Elisha nonetheless has God on his side. The tender story of his healing of a widow's son shows that God has not forgotten the common people. Israel's salvation will depend on how well the nation listens to prophets like Elijah. Sorry, this is taking a little. After a long time, Elisha and Obadiah. Chapter 18. After a long time in the 3rd year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elisha went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. Obadiah was a devout believer in the Lord. While Jezebel was killing off the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them in 2 caves, 50 in each, and had supplied them with food and water. Ahab had said to Obadiah, "Go through the land to all the springs and valleys. Maybe we can find some grass to keep the horses and mules alive, so we will not have to kill any of our animals." So they divided the land they were to cover. Ahab was going in one direction and Obadiah in another. As Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him, bowed down to the ground and said, "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?" "Yes," he replied. "Go tell your master Elisha is here." "What have I done wrong?" asked Obadiah, "that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death? As surely as the Lord your God lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. And whenever a nation or kingdom claimed that you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, 'Elisha is here.' I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I will leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshipped the Lord since my youth. Haven't you heard, my lord, what I did while Jezebel was killing the prophets of the Lord? I hid 100 of the Lord's prophets in 2 caves, 50 in each, and supplied them with food and water. And now you tell me to go to my master and say, 'Elisha is here. He will kill me.'" He sounds a little annoyed. Dave, you're an old dude. I don't think I'm going to listen to you right now. Elisha said, "As the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today." Elisha on Mount Carmel. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went out to meet Elijah. When he saw Elisha, he said to him, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" "I have not made trouble for Israel," Elisha replied, "but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table." So Ahab sent word throughout all Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elisha went before the people and said, "How long will you waver between the 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, I'll follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him." Well, I know Baal is not God. Because he just isn't. But the people said nothing. Then Elisha said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get the 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I'll prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God. Then all the people said, "What you say is good." Elisha said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire." So they took the bull given them and prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from the morning till noon. "Baal, answer us," they shouted, but there was no response. No one answered, and they danced around the altar they had made. Wow, who would have thought? I never could have guessed that Baal isn't the actual God. No, I'm joking. I definitely could have guessed that. I already knew that. At noon, Elisha began to taunt them. "Shout louder," he said. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Then Elisha said to all the people, "Come here to me." They came to him, and he prepared the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elisha took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Your name shall be Israel." With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it across the wood. Once I get to chapter 19, I'm going to go back to the page. And laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a third time, he ordered, and they did it a third time. The water ran down the altar and even filled the trench. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. Then, when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. They come to their senses, I see. Then Elijah commanded them, Seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let anyone get away. They seized them, and Elijah had brought them down to the Kishon Valley and slaughtered there. And Elijah said to Ahab, Go eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain. So Ahab went off to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, bent down to the ground, and put his face between his knees. Go and look toward the sea, he told his servant, and he went up and looked. Elijah rubs it in. Chapter 18, verse 33. Elijah designed the contest to expose Baal, the alleged god of weather, who was often depicted carrying a thunderbolt. Elijah doused his own altar with 12 large jars of water, a precious commodity after 3 years of drought, before calling on God. Fire from heaven burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the dust, and even licked up the water in the trench. There was nothing there, he said. 7 times Elijah said, Go back. The 7th time the servant reported, A cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea. So Elijah said, Go and tell Ahab, Hitch up your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds. The wind rose, a heavy rain started falling, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. The power of the Lord came on Elijah, and tucking his cloak into his belt, he ran ahead of Ahab all the way to Jezreel. I know, it's wild, right? For sheer drama, few scenes can match this one that transpires on windswept Mount Carmel, where the forces of good and evil collide head-on. In film trilogies like Lord of the Rings and The Matrix, myth makers dream up cosmic confrontations. Forgot where it was. Cosmic. The incident recorded in chapter 18 is no myth. On this day, a prophet single-handedly takes on a king and nearly 1,000 powerful priests. Elijah has already made a grand entrance, stalking the terraced streets of affluent Samaria in black camel's hair, a striking contrast to the priests of Baal in their white linen robes and high-pointed bonnets. 3 years before, he had proclaimed a simple, unpopular message of doom. There will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. Chapter 17, verse 1. That message was a direct affront to followers of Baal who believed their God could control the weather. His message delivered, Elijah disappeared. For the next 3 years, he was the most wanted fugitive in Israel, for he alone had the power to bring rain. And now in the scene, the prophet Elijah returns to Samaria. Elijah's contest. Israel faces a crossroads. Other kings have introduced adultery into the Jewish religion, but King Ahab and his notorious wife Jezebel want to go much further. Queen Jezebel has just launched a murderous campaign to eliminate all true prophets of God and replace them with pagan priests. The prophet Elijah, whose very name means "the Lord is my God," is a thorn in her side. Elijah proposes a showdown, the ultimate contest to prove who is the true God. On one side stands a resplendent array of 850 prophets of Baal and Asherah. On the other side stands a lone, bedraggled prophet of God. That's a funny word. Elijah lets the pagan prophets have the first turn. As they dance around an altar beseeching their gods, he sits back, enjoys the show, and taunts them into a frenzy. Perhaps your God is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping, he yells. The priests slash themselves with swords until their blood runs. Yeah, wow, that's a great idea. When Elisha's turn comes, he works the crowd like a master magician. Just when it seems Elisha is perpetrating a fraud, the miracle happens. Fire falls from heaven. In the final analysis, it is no contest at all. We already knew it. Voices in the desert. Elijah lives during one of the greatest outbreaks of miracles in biblical history, as God is sounding a final warning to the rebellious northern kingdom as Israel's rulers and then its priests grow more and more corrupt. First and Second Kings train the spotlight on prophets like Elijah. These prophets convey God's power through their words and deeds. Over time, the significance of the prophets even surpasses that of the kings. Whether they serve in the government or wander in occasional from the desert, the true prophets remain accountable only to God. They decry the false prophets employed by the king, who generally tell the king whatever he wishes to hear. The prophets testify to a God who works in history. Sometimes God seems silent, and sometimes he works slowly and mysteriously. But occasionally God does step in directly, even spectacularly, with a display of power. At such times, a prophet is usually right in the midst of things, like Elijah on Mount Carmel. Not all prophets left written messages. Elisha and Elisha, for example, did not. But the prophetic writings that do survive from 17 books of the Old Testament, most of them stemming from the time period described in 1st and 2nd Kings. Yeah, it is kind of cool. Not even kind of. It's actually really cool. I don't know why I said kind of. Elijah flees to Horeb, chapter 19. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with a sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely." Yeah, hopefully they do deal with you. "Be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. While he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, he came to a broom bush. He sat down under it and prayed that he might die. That's a very big tongue twister. Broom bush. Try to say that 5 times. He might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then he laid down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then laid down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went to a cave and spent the night. The Lord appears to Elijah. And the word of the Lord came to him. "What are you doing here, Elisha?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant and torn down your altars and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." The Lord said to him, "Go back the way you came and go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, anoint Hazael king over Ammon. Also anoint Jehu son of Nimshi king over Israel, and anoint Elisha son of Shaphat from Abel Meholith to succeed you as prophet. Jehu will put to death any who escape the sword of Hazael, and Elisha will put to death any who escape the word of Jehu. Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and whose mouths have not kissed him." Chapter 19, verse 3. Wicked Queen Jezebel. Queen Jezebel's reputation was such that Elijah ran from her in fear even after God had triumphantly displayed his power on Mount Carmel. The Roman historian Josephus records her family history. Her father, who had served as a high priest in Pagan temple in Tyre, murdered the king and ruled there for 32 years. His reign was characterized as murderous adulteries, and a reckless contempt for human rights. Jezebel followed in her father's footsteps. Married to Ahab as part of the political alliance, she installed 850 prophets of Baal and ordered the wholesale slaughter of any prophets of God who opposed her. Ahab fell under her sway. Alone he could be brave, chivalrous, and even conscientious, but his weakness and Jezebel's influence led him to become the wickedest king of Israel. Ahab, jerk. The call of Elisha. Hold up. Is that Elisha or is that Elisha? I'm confused. So Elisha went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elisha went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elisha. Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, he said. Then I will come with you. Go back, Elisha replied. What have I done to you? So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elisha and became his servant. So Elisha, say yes if it's Elisha instead of Elisha. I need to know. Ben-Hadad attacks Samaria. Okay. Now Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mustered his entire army. Accompanied by 32 kings with their horses and chariots, he went up and besieged Samaria and attacked it. He sent messengers into the city to Ahab, king of Israel, saying, "This is what Ben-Hadad says. Your silver and gold are mine, and the best of your wives and children are mine." Oh, wait, I forgot about this one. When we speak of miracle workers in the Bible, 3 names stand out: Moses, Elijah, and Jesus. Those 3, in fact, are the ones who met on the Mount of Transfiguration to talk about Jesus' departure from earth. See Luke 9:30-31. In their lifetimes, all 3 experienced the power and also the limitations of miracles. 1st and 2nd Kings record 8 amazing miracles God worked through Elijah. Some, like his contest with the prophets of Baal, see 1 Kings 18:16-39, were performed before a large audience. Others, like his restoration of the widow's son, chapter 17:17-24, were more private. Ironically, Elisha's experience shows the limits of miracles and encouraging faith. Right after his greatest miracle, the contest with Baal, Elisha grew depressed and afraid. It was then that God revealed his presence not through demonstrations of power, but in a gentle whisper, 19-12. The prophet Malachi depicted that a visit by Elijah would precede the Messiah's arrival, a prediction Jesus said that John the Baptist fulfilled. See Matthew 17:9-13. All the Jews of Jesus' day, including Jesus, held Elijah in highest esteem. Even today, during certain holidays, Orthodox Jews leave a place at the table for Elijah, worker of wonders. No, we already read that. Feels like it's cramped for some reason. Yeah, worker of wonders is a lit name. The king of Israel answered, "Just as you said, say, my lord the king, and I have are yours." Oh, we're moving this way. Can't fit my arm in. The king of Israel answered, "Just as you say, my lord the king, and I have all, and I and all I have are yours." The messengers came again and said, "This is what Ben-Hadad says. I sent to demand your silver and gold, your wives and your children. But about this time tomorrow I am going to send my officials to search your palace and the houses of your officials. They will seize everything you value and carry it away." Good. The king of Israel summoned all the elders of the land and said to them, "See how this man is looking for trouble. When he sent for my wives and my children, my silver and my gold, I did not refuse him." The elders and the people all answered, "Don't listen to him or agree to his demands." So he replied to Ben-Hadad's messengers, "Tell my lord the king, your servant will do all you demanded the first time, but this demand I cannot meet." They left and took the answer back to Ben-Hadad. Then Ben-Hadad sent another message to Ahab, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if enough dust remains in Samaria to give each of my men a handful." The king of Israel answered, "Tell him, one who puts on his armor should not boast like one who takes it off." Ben-Hadad heard this message while he and the kings were drinking in their tents, and he ordered his men, "Prepare to attack." So they prepared to attack the city. Ahab defeats Ben-Hadad. Dang it, I wanted Ben-Hadad to kill Ahab. Not a big fan of Ahab currently. Meanwhile, the prophet came to Ahab, king of Israel, and announced, "This is what the Lord says. Do you see this vast army? I will give it into your hand today, and then you will know that I am the Lord." "But who will do this?" asked Ahab. The prophet replied, "This is what the Lord says. The junior officers under the provincial commanders will do it." "And who will start the battle?" he asked. The prophet answered, "You will." So Ahab summoned the 232 junior officers under the provincial commanders. Then he assembled the rest of the Israelites, 7,000 in all. They set out at noon, while Ben-Hadad and the 32 kings allied with him were in their tents getting drunk. The junior officers under the provincial commanders went out first. Now Ben-Hadad had dispatched scouts, who reported, "Men are advancing from Samaria." He said, "If they have come out for peace, take them alive. If they have come out for war, take them alive." Oh, so just take them alive both times. The junior officers under the provincial commanders marched out of the city with the army behind them. Each one struck his opponent. At that, the Arameans fled with the Israelites in pursuit. But Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, escaped on horseback with some of his horsemen. The king of Israel advanced and overpowered the horses and chariots and inflicted heavy losses on the Arameans. Afterward, the prophet came to the king of Israel and said, "Strengthen your position and see what must be done, because the next spring the king of Aram will attack you again." Meanwhile, the officials of the king of Aram advised him, "Their gods are gods of the hills. That is why they were too strong for us. But if we fight them on the plains, surely we will be stronger than they. Do this, remove all the kings from their commands and replace them with their other officers. You must also raise an army like the one you lost, horse for horse and chariot for chariot, so we can fight Israel on the plains. Then surely we will be stronger than they." He agreed with them and acted accordingly. The next spring, Ben-Hadad mustered the Arameans and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. When the Israelites were also mustered and given provisions, they marched out to meet them. The Israelites camped opposite them like two small flocks of goats, while the Arameans covered the countryside. The man of God came up and told the king of Israel, "This is what the Lord says. Because the Arameans think the Lord is a God of the hills and not a God of the valleys, I will deliver this vast army into your hands, and you will know that I am the Lord." For 7 days they camped opposite each other, and on the 7th day the battle was joined. The Israelites inflicted 100,000 casualties on the Aramean foot soldiers in one day. The rest of them escaped to the city of Aphek, where the wall collapsed on 27,000 of them, and Ben-Hadad fled to the city and hid in an inner room. His officials said to him, "Look, we have heard that the kings of Israel are merciful. Let us go to the king of Israel with sackcloth around our waists and ropes around our heads. Perhaps he will spare your life." Yeah, merciful, sure. When literally, like, a few books ago, they killed everyone, even the children. I think they didn't spare the children. At least not the male children. Wearing sackcloth around their waists and ropes around their heads, they went to the king of Israel and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad says, 'Please let me live.'" The king answered, "Is he still alive? He is my brother." The men took this as a good sign and were quick to pick up his word. "Yes, your brother Ben-Hadad," they said. "Go and get him," the king said. When Ben-Hadad came out, Ahab had him come up into his chariot. I will return the cities my father took from your father. Ben-Hadad offered, you may set up your own market areas in Damascus, as my father did in Samaria. Ahab said, on the basis of a treaty, I will set you free. So he made a treaty with him and let him go. Wow. That was very... Wow. A prophet condemns Ahab. By the word of the Lord, one of the company of the prophets said to his companion, strike me with your weapon, but he refused. So the prophet said, because you have not obeyed the Lord, as soon as you leave me, a lion will kill you. And after the man went away, a lion found him and killed him. The prophet found another man and said, strike me, please. So the man struck him and wounded him. Then the prophet went and stood by the road, waiting for the king. He disguised himself with his headband down over his eyes. As the king passed by, the prophet called out to him, your servant went into the thick of the battle, and someone came to me with a captive and said, guard this man. If he is missing, it will be your life for his life, or you must pay a talent of silver. While your servant was busy here and there, the man disappeared. That is your sentence, the king of Israel said. You have pronounced it yourself. Then the prophet quickly removed the headband from his eyes, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. He said to the king, this is what the Lord says. You have set free a man I have determined should die. Therefore it is your life for his life, your people for his people. Sullen and angry, the king of Israel went to his palace in Samaria. Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of funny. Alright, well, that's it for the 5 chapters today. Tomorrow we will read... Is 21 the last chapter? No, it goes to 22. So tomorrow... Here, hold on. Let me zoom that out. Tomorrow we will read chapter 21 and 22. And... yeah, so the stream will be a little bit shorter. And it'll probably be around... it won't go this late, though. It'll probably be around 8:30. If I can't get there 9. But... hope you all had a blessed night, and... good night. Jesus loves you.